Today I take a look at the VEVOR Airless sprayer. So we got our instructions, we got our spray gun, we got our filter, we got actually a cleaning brush. So this came with a filter. I'm curious if there's one already installed. There is. That's cool. So we actually have two filters. So when this one gets dirty, we can take that out, put it in a bucket, start getting it cleaned, and throw the other one in. Nice feeling trigger. We have a very nice rubber grip on here. And we do have a trigger lock that is ambidextrous. So the tip this comes with is a 517. So the 5, double that is a 10-inch spray and a 17 thousandths orifice. So that is the size of the orifice. So a fairly nice size for a sprayer. Now it is worth mentioning that this is the 950 watt version. So this is the larger size. So you're going to be able to throw out a lot more paint with this than you will with a smaller size sprayer. The most common nozzle is going to be a 310. It's going to be very easy to control. You're also only going to get a 6-inch pattern. This is going to be designed for putting a lot more paint down so you can do a lot of work quicker. We got our pressure gauge, and this is a glycerin filled gauge, so that's going to make it so that the needle doesn't bounce around. We got bar on the inside, and we got PSI on the outside. We got some tools, some big pins. Here is our handle. Oh, nice. So they gave us, looks like about just under a 20-inch extension. So that's great. So you can put this right onto the end of your gun, put the nozzle on the end here, and that way it'll give you a lot more reach. So that way if you're trying to spray down low, you don't have to bend over. Also, if you're climbing up a ladder, this can give you a lot more reach side to side, so you don't have to move that ladder quite as often. So very nice that they included that. Got a couple of poles, and we have got our sprayer. And there was a couple of solid rubber wheels in the bottom. So we got a nice long hose, and it is actually somewhat fairly flexible in comparison to most airless sprayer hoses that I've seen. We have a standard braided inlet hose. We have a fairly simple purge tube, which is actually kind of nice because that way you can easily replace the thing. What I like to see is that there is already a filter installed, so that means that we actually got an extra for this. So in the event that this thing ever gets clogged up, or if we just need to clean it out, and we want to put something on so we can keep going, we can easily do that. So on the side here, we got our prime switch. So that's going to divert the paint, so it's either going to go out the purge tube or out the sprayer. So it can do one or the other. If you have it set to the sprayer, then it's going to pressurize the system. If you have it set to purge, then it's just going to keep on running it and send everything out the purge tube. Let's go ahead and attach our wheels. So we're just going to use these pins. I'm just going to drop that through our wheel, and that's going to run through the bottom and throw our pin in the hole in the back. So very easy. We'll do the same thing on the other side. You can take these tubes. You can see it has a spring pin right there. So that is going to line up with that hole. So it just drops in, and we got another one on the other side just like it. And on top, do the same thing. And we've got our completed pump, so we can easily roll this thing around. We just grab that handlebar, we can move it around without having to bend over. But in the interest of saving space, if we want to, we can unclip this thing, pull this whole thing out, and we can easily store that whole thing on a shelf. So we got our power switch here on the right side. I do like to actually have a membrane on that to make sure that we're not getting anything inside of it. And on the left side, we've got our regulator. So if we turn it to the right, we increase our PSI. If we turn it to the left, we decrease our PSI. So what's great about this one being a 950 watt, this is 3000 PSI, 2 liters per minute. So you can put a lot of paint out of the sprayer in a pretty quick amount of time. But that is going to be for more advanced users. If you want to, you can turn this guy down, you can put in a smaller tip, and then you'll have a lot more controlled spray. It's also going to be great if you want to do small jobs, or if you want to do trim or siding or anything like that, no problem. But if you want to do a lot of work quickly, turn this guy up, use a big tip, and you can plow right through a wall. Now, one thing I really like to see is that they actually put instructions in here to tell you exactly how to get this thing up and running, from priming all the way to actually how to use the thing. And this is what's most impressive to me, is they actually tell you exactly how to disassemble a thing to look at the parts. Where most manufacturers are trying to keep everything that's inside of there a secret, this actually tells you exactly how to remove that faceplate. It just says 4 bolts here on the front, so you just take those guys out, pop the faceplate off, and get to the internal parts. So that is very nice. So the first thing we want to do is want to strain it. So I'm using a paint strainer. Doesn't even matter if your paint is brand new, you always want to strain it. And this paint is pretty old, so definitely want to strain this stuff. All I'm going to do is pull this up. You can see we got a big old thing there. I'm just going to squeeze that out. There we go. So now if there's any chunks, it's going to be staying in this bag. That is what we got. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick both the inlet as well as the purge tube into a bucket of water. So this is just lukewarm water, not hot, not cold. I got the pressure all the way down. I got it set to purge. We'll turn it on. So this is good. It is not turning on. That's because I got the regulator all the way down. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit. And it is sucking up that water. Okay, looks like I didn't have it on purge, I had it on spray. So all that did was that pressurized all the water into this line. I'm going to turn this back down, I'm going to set it to purge. And so water is starting to come out of the purge line. So now I know, down is purge, toward me is spray. turn this down again, put that in the bucket, and start spraying. There we go. Now we are spraying. Go ahead and turn this up. Okay, we got water in the pump, we got water coming out the purge, we got water all the way through the line. So now let's switch this out for paint. Now they are using zip ties to hold this together. It's going to make it a little bit more of a pain, but it's still doable. All we got to do is slip it out. We're going to put the inlet in the paint, and then we'll put the purge into the water. That's it. So we got paint coming out. Now I want to get paint coming out of my nozzle. Okay, we have got paint. The 12 inches away should give me a 10-inch spray pattern. Yeah, that about is. Now you'll notice it is very thick here in the center. That is because I got the pressure way too high. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. That is a little bit better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. That's pretty awesome. Now this paint is trash paint. I don't plan on ever using this, so I'm just going to use that as my waste. So I got my inlet back in the water. This is going to be water that's mixed with paint, but I'm going to start with that, and then I'll move on to cleaner water after that. I'm going to put this back on purge. There you go. So now we are getting kind of a milky, watery paint. So now I'm going to move on to fresh water, and this is fresh, warm water. Clean. Now I'm going to take the nozzle, I'm going to stick it underneath the water, pull the trigger, turn it on. I'll show you, this is what happens if you don't stick it in the water. So I'm just going to shock it, so I'm going to hold it under the water. I'm going to have it at full pressure, I'm just going to blast it. So that's going to do is it's going to break up any water that might still be in the line. Yeah, 3 or 4 times. So if you use water-based paint, that's literally all you'd have to do. Now I used oil-based paint, so I got to use lacquer thinner. So the last step is we want to protect it, so I'm going to be using Pump Armor. This is by Graco. A lot of different things you could use for this. You could use mineral spirits with oil. You'll hear people say kerosene. Some people say windshield washer fluid. I've heard RV coolant. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different ideas. This stuff is designed specifically for this purpose, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm just going to add it to that tube and turn it on. So now I know that that pump is full of this fluid. The reason you don't want to just use water is because water, it can make the pump rust up. If it freezes, it'll expand, it'll destroy the pump. So you want to use something that's designed for it. So yeah, overall, that is a very cool sprayer. It sprays nice and clean. The only things that I would change about it would be, I would probably put this up higher so that I could put a bucket underneath it so I could carry the paint and the sprayer at the same time. Now, if we did that, we wouldn't be able to take it apart and put it on a shelf, so it would reduce the functionality somewhat, so that's kind of a give and take. And it would have made it so the purge hose can clip onto the fill hose. As it stands, the thing works perfectly well. It sprays beautifully, it pressurizes well, it sprays consistently, and it sprays nice and smoothly, and it's got a lot of power. I mean, I only put on a 10-inch sprayer, and it had plenty more. I could have probably gone with a 24-inch wide nozzle if I really wanted to. So yeah, overall, that is a nice sprayer.